Hey guys, welcome to Baste Record Podcast. Today we have Miles Cheong with us, speech advocate, commentator, just an all-around advocate for free speech, and we're so glad to have you. We also have Baste Record CEO Matthew Azrieli with us, and we're here to talk about stuff.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for coming on, Ian.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Yeah. When Matt asked me to come on, I was like, hell, why not? Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, Ian, you're kind of Zorro in a sense, you keep getting executed by the Malaysian authorities. You keep foiling them.
Yeah. Is it really you we're talking to is what I want to know.
Can
like,
we see
is
your
it?
ears?
Yes, it is. I'm not AI.
And can we see a picture of your ears 10 years ago and as opposed to now to make sure it's really you?
Do you want to make sure I'm not Joe Biden or what?
Exactly.
Just,
Exactly.
Yeah.
How crazy is it that those guys were right? The ear people, they might have had a point, right?
They could have had a point. That is true.
They might have had a point. Yeah. I mean, what happened to the guy in 1992 when he was talking about super predators? That guy, I like that Joe Biden. He was a badass. The Joe Biden we know today is he's just kind of out of it.
That's right. It's all, and I think, frankly, we could say, we identify by the ears, but maybe the ears changed and it changed him, right? Maybe it corrupted him.
Maybe that's where his power is, like Samson, his power comes from his ears.
Exactly. He became a libtard by virtue of some kind of, maybe he had a bad ear infection or something like that.
Yeah.
But what's more
reverse osmosis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what's more serious than ears changing people into libtards.
Mm-hmm.
So, you and I, we met, we worked together for a while, a long time ago. And a colleague of ours was a really wonderful guy named Andy No, and he's done a fantastic job uncovering this trans murder cult in the States called the Ziz cult. What do you think about that, Ian?
I mean, I heard something about it before he started doing the research, right? Some people had mentioned, the people in the, what's it called? Effective altruism. It's a tech community thing where it's kind of culty. I won't say it's completely a cult, but they're kind of culty people. And so when I heard about it, I was like, okay, maybe there's something to it, right? I mean, why is it that these two followers of Ziz, who's like, some sort of felon, maybe he's dead, maybe he's not, we're not really sure, and they're all trans, they're up to something. But then Andy, he does a bunch of digging into it, and then he finds out that there's been more than just one murder, right? It's been 4 murders so far, and he's just uncovering more and more and more of this stuff just happening. It's actually kind of insane. It's like, and apparently he had reached out to the FBI asking them, hey, have you heard of this Ziz thing and all these transgender killers who are all part of, like San Francisco, right? They live there. They're all like engineers and stuff. And they're like, no, we have no idea what you're talking about. And so he's feeding them this information, and they're like, oh, holy crap, there's something here. There might be something here. So, I mean, this is, if there's such a thing as investigative journalism, in today's day and age, you don't often see it. He's actually doing it. He's nailing it.
Andy's great.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. One of the few real good journalists.
Oh, for sure. Well, especially on the right? I mean, a lot of my critique used to be that we were very big on responding to news, but we weren't very big on uncovering news and reporting it, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's like normally it's got, you have people like working at Cosmopolitan or the New Yorker or, New York Times, right? They're doing the real journalism. But here you have Andy Ngo, and it kind of saddens me that it's not getting as much attention as it should. I mean, Elon has posted about it, and that's great. But I wish the right wing would jump onto it. But instead, everybody's just still jumping onto stupid conspiracy theories about, trans people being the pilot of that one the helicopter that crashed. And that turned out to be false.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It wasn't a trans pilot. Yeah.
Do we know who the pilot was?
We don't know the name yet. They haven't released that information. We know, I think that it's a female pilot, but I don't, honestly,
Really?
I don't think it's got anything to do with DEI. Yeah, I mean, at least not in this instance. Maybe with the air traffic controller, sure, there are issues there, and apparently that person was doing the job of 2 people. But I think for the most part, from what's been explained to me by like Army pilots, is they're flying at night with night vision goggles, and it's kind of like looking to a toilet roll, essentially. So they can't see anything. and so they have to rely on ground control to tell them what they're doing, where they're flying. And I guess the information just wasn't good enough. I mean, if you listen to the call where they did the last call, they asked, "Do you see an aircraft?" And they're like, "Yes," but they don't actually specify which aircraft that they should be looking at, right? And so they hit this aircraft, and maybe it's just a bad accident.
It's amazing because the video is just, it's dead straight. I mean, it's I mean, the fact that they can't look and see just directly in front of them is wild to me. I mean, that's
exactly. Yeah, I mean, maybe it was deliberate. We don't know yet. I mean, I doubt it was, but I mean, who knows, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
But also, whose idea was it to conduct helicopter training through a flight corridor?
Right?
Didn't anybody say, "Hey guys, maybe not where the planes are flying? Maybe don't go around there. Like we have all of West Virginia right next to us to practice helicopter drills. Maybe I mean you are simulating a real life scenario, I guess. But
yeah, I guess, but it's very irresponsible. And if you look at some of the other videos, not of that particular flight, but just in general, they fly really close to the airplanes at the same, trajectory, right? I mean, the only difference is that this one is flying a bit too high, and they've confirmed that. Trump confirmed that it was way too high. It wasn't supposed to be at that altitude.
Well, I saw something like a flight tracker that there were 3 near misses before a collision was eventually made, right? So
that's right. Yeah, it was bound to happen. And with the way things were with Biden, hiring people based on DEI, you can kind of see why the whole place was understaffed, right? I mean, they wouldn't be able to get the best people working there, and the best people working there are completely overworked. I mean, we know this guy, whoever it was working 2 jobs. That should have been the job of 2 different people.
Well, and that's the interesting thing, right? Because under the Obama administration, and Vance talked about this recently, there was a lawsuit. It was called Brigidia versus the U.S. Department of Transportation. That's spelled Brigidia. And the Obama administration essentially they laxed some of the requirements for ATC, for air traffic controllers. And it was a big source of consternation at the time, and we're sort of seeing the results of it, I think, possibly with this
think so too. I mean, in 2022, Biden tried to hire...
Did we lose Ian?
Uh-oh.
The Malaysian
CEO of Denver Airport.
Oh, there he is. He froze up for a second.
It's this dude, and he's clueless. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
said he's completely clueless. This guy, right? The Atlanta CEO guy. They wanted to appoint him the chairman of the FAA, and the guy knows absolutely nothing about flying at all. And from what I understand, he used to work for Los Angeles, like the.
We're losing you, Ian.
Vehicles. So he's just feeling his way upwards, and he's a political appointee. Yeah.
Well, and it makes you think about these appointees, how many of them even know anything about the departments that they're serving in? And of course, it makes us very grateful, frankly, for transparency. Gad Sad, also a great guy, Montrealer, so I knew him from the time that I was living there. He was recently on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he told Joe that Elon Musk's single most important action was buying Twitter, now X. Do you agree with that, Ian?
I absolutely agree. I mean, we were at a fork in the road, to take Elon's words. Humanity was at a fork in the road, and right at the time, Twitter was putting out or disseminating the woke mind virus, right? The San Francisco culture. And that's a big reason why the world is the way it is, with everybody being politically correct and, promoting transgenderism, DEI and all that stuff. Is largely because of Twitter. This was their primary source of, primary vehicle to promote their agenda. And Elon comes in, buys it up, and immediately everything just changes, right? He's shifted the Overton window. Not only has he shifted the Overton window, it's like he smashed it wide open. That's what's happened. Yeah, I mean, without him, I don't think Trump would be president. I think there would have been a lot of shenanigans, shall we say, going on, and no one would be able to call it out, because if you recall, after the 2020 election or 2016 election, Facebook and a bunch of these other platforms were all like, "Oh yeah, we have to protect democracy, so we're gonna like start censoring people." And now all of that has been reversed, right? All of it has been reversed, and it's largely thanks to Elon Musk.
Ian, will Elon get us to Mars? And if so, will you relocate?
I think yes to the first part of that question. I think he will get us to Mars. I think, if he wants to get something done, he gets it done. Maybe not as soon as he would like, but I think that it is coming, right? Maybe 2026, 2028. Like every 2 years, you have the opportunity to launch a rocket to Mars, right? So that's definitely happening. It's in the works. I mean, he's building Starship right now. It's making amazing progress, like great strides. Like he's basically, miniaturized the engine, made it really efficient, right? It can even land itself now, right? Which is amazing. I've never seen anything like it where he catches it. Like this is like the largest structure ever constructed for like an air, for like a rocket, and he's landing it. He's actually catching it. So I think he's going to make it happen. But as for whether I'll be on to, go to Mars, maybe not on the first flight. Maybe like on the 10th.
Yeah, maybe kind of see how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, but because I think the next opportunity they have for launch is in 2026, right? And that's going to be midterms, right? Roughly.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
So I do think that it's not 100% that the Democrats aren't going to get back into power and try to destroy Tesla, try to destroy SpaceX because of some endangered waterfowl or some endangered kind of, Pacific fish that theoretically could be, I don't know, and like the launch that could somehow be affected by a SpaceX launch, right? So I feel like it's kind of...
It gives them headaches. It gives sharks headaches, right? Yeah, they're going to ban some pots and pans just to test it out.
Exactly.
It gives them headaches.
Yeah, the acoustics, that's right. Yeah, because the fish get headaches, which is fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like having a
It's
Havana
fair, but
gun.
it's like ridiculous to pause human development because 5 fish were affected by it. Like that is just ludicrous.
We've got to let all of California down, burn down for the Delta smelt. We've got to do it, Ian. That's what being a good person is at the end of the day. Wouldn't you agree?
It's
100%.
It's so ridiculous. Did you see where they were? They were met the other day with the California. Trump was there, and how he basically had to just. I can't even understand how they can fight him on turning the water on. Your state is burning down.
Number one, the most basic thing, right? The most basic thing, guys. We need water so we can put out the fires. And they're like, well, we have to run some paperwork. It might be 2 months. It's like
unbelievable. How he has to come in and say, no, guys, you have to turn the faucet. Like you have to turn the water on.
Yes.
And people, and I really want to ask some of those people that voted Newsom and all, and those people in and say, this is what you voted for? Is this going to change? Do you think this is going to change?
I'm just imagining
the way they voted.
Chris, I'm imagining
God,
you.
I hope so.
No, guys, because I'm just imagining Chris going into a cemetery. Why did you vote for this? How could you have done this?
Yeah.
You're going to a deportation center. Nobody speaks English. Why did you guys vote? How could you vote for Baste? This was a disaster.
California shenanigans. It's like, they don't really count their votes properly. It takes them months just to get a result. I mean, it takes India like 1 day, right, to do a whole election. It took France less than a day. It takes most countries less than a day, but California takes like 2 months just to get one county, which has 5,000 people in it. Like, make that make sense to me. It doesn't make sense.
It's incredible. Well, India, not a wealthy country by any means, roughly 1 billion people, but you know what they have? That America doesn't have? Voter ID. All voters have voter ID. So it makes counting a lot easier when you know who's voting, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you? You racist.
I'm sorry.
How dare you? You are keeping the black man down by making them get voter IDs. Don't you know black people have no idea how to use computers? Are you some kind of racist?
Well, actually, it's funny that you bring this up because we were talking about the transgender issue a little bit earlier in this live stream. I just have to say that I feel like Democrats don't understand how unpopular transgenderism is ideologically as an issue with black voters quite yet. I don't think that people understand sufficiently how nuts this sounds to your average, frankly, non-white person. That you're like, oh yeah, we'll castrate this child for sure. We love it, and taxpayers will fund it. That's the best part.
That's right. I like how Trump has just canceled all of it, right? Every single hospital, like I think Libs of TikTok has been calling up the hospitals to find out if they're still castrating children. And they're like, no, ma'am, we don't offer this service anymore because Trump requires us not to do it. It's like, fine, good. And now you belong in jail as well because, my God, how many people have you mutilated? Jesus.
Yeah, that's why you stopped. Okay, we had to stop it. I'm so sorry if you're calling for to have your child castrated. I'm so sorry, but we had to stop it.
We call it gender affirming care, right? We call it gender affirming care, right? If we're in
all
polite
it does in
company.
euphemism makes it okay, right? Everything is fine as long as you call it, gender affirming care. It's mental health care. Never mind the fact that being transgender is a mental illness. Never mind all that. Let's just chop off their dicks, chop off their breasts, perfectly functioning. It makes them feel good, or at least it makes the doctor feel good because that's what they like doing. Apparently, they're Dr. Mengele, basically. That's what they are.
Essentially, and it's at scale, maybe not at the same scale that he operates. I think it's kind of. But it does sort of harken to this idea of a banality of evil, where you essentially have all of these surgeons posting on TikTok, hey, how many breasts have I yeeted? Have you seen this female surgeon?
I've seen that.
Miami?
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's crazy.
That person belongs in jail.
Probably.
Jail. Simple as that. Yeah.
Our producer's saying something. Oh, would you mind sharing the stream, Mr. Ian?
Yes, I will have to. How will I share the stream? I'll just use my laptop here.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's less about when they talk about transgenders, it's less about them and more about why they're so special as opposed to everyone else.
They want special treatment.
Yeah, that's the thing is, okay, well, what about people who only like, 3 people at one time? How about people who, there's thousands of them. What makes them better than these people? And why don't they have their own bathrooms? Because of that, bringing it back to a man and a woman, bringing it back to just believe whatever you want to believe. It's back down to this, and do whatever you want to do, and except you don't get special treatment anymore. Everyone gets special treatment.
It got to an insane point where they weren't just like catering to people who think, like men who think they're women or women who think they're men. You had adult grown men, like in Canada, I'm sure you remember all of this, right?
Yes.
Matt, where you have like some 45-year-old guy bathing with 12-year-old girls. I mean, that guy's obviously a fucking pervert, right? But that is what they had happening. And, when you have journalists in there, like Rebel News goes in there, and they start questioning them, they're like, you're transphobic. You can't do that. You can't question people. It's like, excuse me? I mean, you literally have a 45-year-old man showering with teenage girls. What is wrong with you? And no one thinks to question how weird that is,
right?
Because no one wants to be accused of racism or whatever, like transphobia. And it's the same thing in the UK, right? We talk on X about grooming gangs a lot, and the exact same thing happened there, where you have these groomers, these rapists going around raping white girls, young 12-year-old girls. And no one wants to say anything. Like the cops won't take even take a statement from them because they don't want to be accused of racism. So it's like they're just allowing it to happen. It's the whole banality of evil, right? It's certainly the most vulnerable people in our society, which is young girls, are victimized day in, day out by all these predators, whether they're transgender predators or they're like racially motivated predators in the case of the UK. like nobody seems to care, and the people who do care get put in jail for it because they made too much of a fuss.
It's suicidal empathy, right? That's something Gadsat
Like Gadsat says.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it really, really is. And well, but look, it's not only the fact that they kill people; they also steal. They, more importantly, to conservatives, they steal money from the taxpayer. And I wanted,
They do. They 100% do. All the taxes that you pay, whether it's Canada, America, the UK, most of Europe, I would say 100% of Europe, except for maybe Hungary, they're taking your money and they're giving it to somebody else who probably doesn't deserve it at all, and they're using it on nonsense like, like Tim Walz putting tampons in men's bathrooms. I mean, how many women or men are using those tampons? Nobody's using those tampons. That is millions of dollars wasted.
But maybe but have you considered that he's doing this for husbands who maybe they don't want to be bothered going to the pharmacy for their wife? They want to be like, hey, I thought of you, honey. And she's like, I'm sure they're like terrible tampons, though.
It's just absurd, right? I mean, if you want to help women, right? Let's say I was Tim Walz and I had a bunch of money to throw around and I wanted to help women. Say I was legitimately a male feminist or something. Why wouldn't I just subsidize actual tampons for moms? That would make so much more sense, right? Instead, it's like, let's just put it in a men's bathroom where no one's going to use it.
Well, what's crazy? So this is a recent story, and speaking of Elon Musk, DOGE has apparently saved over $1 billion in taxpayer funds just by eliminating DEI contracts. I mean, how much money do you think Musk is going to be able to save us?
Well, I just read where they think right now, just what they're doing right now, it's to $1 billion.
Yes, $1 billion.
$1 billion by just eliminating the DEI projects.
It's only been 11 days.
It's been 11 days.
It's been 11 days, yeah. That's right, yeah.
So,
I think he estimates that they want to get it up to $2 trillion. $2 trillion, yeah.
They're going to have to...
And they're going to do this by firing most of those people who work there anyway, right? I mean, right now they're offering them a nice little severance package. They can quit right now, take 8 months of paid leave, and just do whatever. They can get a job anywhere. Yeah, but they're all whining about it on Twitter and on Reddit. We're having meltdowns about it.
How generous was that, by the way? I read that and I was like, he's offering what?
Oh, yeah, severance.
Oh, my God. That's an amazing
and
severance.
He said it's still cheaper than hiring them. It's still cheaper. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. And speaking of what you were saying, Chris, this is maybe totally out of left field, but this guy, Curtis Yarvin, who's been a big advocate for gutting the civil service for a very long time, he recently wrote a Substack saying that we should actually be more generous. We should pay them just for the full 4-year term just to get rid of them, because otherwise... if they're going to dig their heels in,
right?
They're going to cost more. You actually even just pay them until they would theoretically retire.
Elon wanted to do that. The problem is there's a law that says you can only pay up to 8 months. 8 months is the maximum allowed amount that you can pay somebody. Yeah, really. Yeah, wow. That's the reason why they're not offering them 4 years. Yeah.
Who made this law? Is it a congressional law? I've never heard about it.
I think it's a congressional law. Yeah, they might have to change it if that's the case. Yeah.
That's so based. That's like a law from the 30s. They're like, I hate these pencil pushes. And then they're not able to fire them.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, come on.
Wow.
Honestly, the stopping work from home might be enough to just get rid of a lot of these guys.
Yeah, most of them are going to quit. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the complaints, many of them, during COVID or after COVID, because they're allowed to work from home, they bought houses far away from DC, right? Far away from whichever offices they were. And it would literally take them, 5 hours a day to commute. And so they're not going to, no one's going to commute for 5 hours a day. Fuck that.
But what?
They are probably going to quit.
Nova, like that whole metro area, people drive, man. You're living in the DC corridor. You're driving like 3-4 hours a day regardless. I mean, it's miserable. It's not easy.
That's why they want to quit.
Yeah, you can't blame. I'm saying I don't blame these guys. That's a tough commute. But look, I also want to go back. Just speaking of DEI, so recently Vivek Ramaswamy had a pretty controversial tweet, a pretty controversial take in the middle of the H-1B visa debate. He went after, the prom kings of America, as opposed to the math Olympians, and what I like to call sleepover Americans. I like this term, I like to think of myself as a sleepover American, because your kid couldn't learn math because he was too busy having sleepovers. But listen, as a sleepover American myself, should I expect Vivek to come back into MAGA circles to participate more actively in DOGE? I've heard he's taken a step back. What's the status there, Ian?
So my understanding, and it's all conflicting information, right? Like the people who don't like him will say that he and Elon butted heads, and that's why he's not part of DOGE anymore. If you listen to what he says, and I'm just going to go by what he says, right? He told the Breakfast Club, he told Charlemagne the God, the guy. He said that when Charlemagne insinuated that it's because they butted heads and they don't have the same management style. He said something to the lines of, well, it was kind of like a mutual decision. Like obviously there were some differences. Like Elon wants to be more tech focused, and Vivek is not so tech focused, and maybe they had some differences there. But for the most part, he wants to serve in a different way, right? He's running for governor of Ohio. That's what he wants to do. Yeah, right. So there are conflicts of interest there. So if he was still part of DOGE, he wouldn't be able to run for governor, right? Obviously, he's thinking long term. I get it. Like maybe maybe it wasn't his first choice, but it makes sense. And I'm sure they're fine, because if you look at the photos that they took, even on that day when he was supposedly fired, they're pretty chummy, like it's not like they're enemies or something. So yeah, I think it was a mutual thing. We couldn't. Sorry, it couldn't work out, but I'll still support you. I think that's where it is with him right now. But what I don't like is how people are throwing Vivek under the bus. I mean, I understand a lot of people, think maybe he's a snake, or the way he turned on DeSantis. You got the pro DeSantis people hate him, and you have like the pro MAGA people who hate him. You have some people who are like super pro anti H1B who are accusing him of being racist against white people. And I'm like, he's not racist against white people. If you actually read what he said, it's like he wants Americans to be more exceptional and not to take things for granted. And this is, looking from the outside in, if you look at what Pavel Durov, right, the guy who made Telegram, what he said yesterday was that the reason why China is able to leapfrog OpenAI is because they have a competitive nature, right? In their schools, in their engineering schools, they have leaderboards.
No sleepovers.
Like the best. No sleepovers. Yeah, the best ones get put at the top, and the ones who underperform, they're made fun of, right? It's like they are truly competitive people. They're all like about exceptional. It's the same thing in Russia, right? These people are not sleeping around, right? They're not sleeping and hoping that someone's just going to offer them a free scholarship or graduation or something. Whereas Americans, if you do really well, nobody really celebrates you for it. So there's no spirit of competitiveness. It feels like a participation trophy just to be a part of something, right? And that's the reason why. And that is, exactly what Vivek was talking about. He says, that Americans need to prioritize meritocracy above all else, because if they just, are, being sleepover Americans, they're going to get leapfrogged 100%. We're already seeing it.
I want to share a fact, though. I have to push back on the Russians aren't sleeping around thing. I don't know why. I just have to. Do you know how many people have HIV that they've reported in Russia? It's like 1.1 million, okay? And in the United States, 1.2, okay? So Russia is only a third of the size, okay, as the United States in terms of population, obviously not landmass. But they have about as many people with HIV. So I don't know, maybe it's intravenous drug use or something like that. But there's definitely some sleepover Russians.
They're literally sleeping over.
They're sleeping, or they're doing intravenous drugs.
They're passing something around like parade candy. I don't know what it is.
Well, fortunately, thanks to actually no thanks to Fauci, we now have like cocktails for HIV, so it's no big deal anyway.
Exactly. Well, and by the way, in America, that's what we've decided to subsidize, right? We subsidize PrEP. But if your kid gets cancer, sorry, pal, time to pay $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 out of pocket. That's just how it is. That's what we've decided to subsidize. We've also decided to subsidize, certain kinds of elective surgeries, like we were talking about before. And I wanted to pick up, actually related to that, to a tweet that you put out yesterday, Mr. Ian, about Candace Owens. So do you think that she's a man? Do you think, because that's a handsome guy, by the way, so no shade.
That's a handsome guy.
Handsome guy.
You can't deny the evidence, right? You look at the evidence right there, and it's like, she could be a guy. I mean, like it's the same arguments that she makes about other people being men. So I mean, I don't see why it can't be applied to her. We're just, we're being fair here, right? We're just applying the same standard she applies to other women. So I mean, who knows? Maybe she is a guy. I don't know.
What about Brigitte Macron? What about the wife of Emmanuel Macron in French? Do you think she's a man or a woman?
Honestly,
what do you think?
I think she's a woman. She's just got a lot of plastic surgery, and yeah, she's always been kind of manly. But I've seen younger pictures of her, and she looked like a woman.
Yeah, I don't think she's a man. She's pretty clearly a woman. The weird thing about that is that she's like 50 years older than Macron is, or 40.
That's the weird part. That's the
weird
stuff
enough.
That people should be talking about. She was like literally his babysitter, right? She was like his babysitter. Why is no one talking about that? The guy was like a child when she started dating him. That's weird.
I'll tell you why no one's talking about that. Do you know how popular that would make her with your average white liberal woman? Do you know how popular that would make?
Yeah.
I just saw this crazy movie, Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron. I can't remember it, but she's like in her late 60s. He's in his mid 30s. This is the ultimate Hollywood fantasy, right? Macron getting kind of groomed as a high schooler. Frankly, a movie about that, I mean, that would kill in the United States. It
would win Academy Awards, just like that one movie about a transgender drug dealer or something, right? They made one. And have you seen it? Have you seen a clip where it's like a musical and they're talking about rhinoplasties and vaginoplasties and peniloplasties and it's like, this is a real thing. This is not like something produced by The Onion. Maybe not The Onion. The Babylon Bee.
Well, the Onion would talk about that. They'd be like, "This is great. How could we possibly criticize this?" Right?
That's right. Yeah.
But listen, I guess the euphemism you could apply for that is musical Americans, right? Everything has to become a musical all the time.
Musical Americans.
I'm still a sleepover American personally, and I don't know if Vivek, to your earlier point, I don't know if Vivek has an issue with white Americans. I think he just has an issue with sleepover Americans. You have a sleepover as a child. You have a nice experience with a friend. Maybe you're studying for the math exam together, okay? It doesn't preclude an understanding of algebra to have a sleepover, okay? But, there are some people, they've had rough childhoods. They had a lot of stuff that was sort of expected of them. And speaking of rough childhoods, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, divorce rumors. What do you think's happening there, Ian?
I think they're in an open relationship.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. And also, I don't think she's a man. People like to say that she's a man. She's clearly not. But I think they're in an open relationship. I mean, the guy's Barack Obama, and he's kind of got a reputation himself. It's not Bill Clinton, but,
they believe in those open borders.
For Aniston, I mean, be my guest. It's their lives, right? I don't care. It doesn't affect me.
No, absolutely. Well, listen, I'm a big fan of Michelle Obama's family. She's a very eccentric family in Chicago. They're linked to the Black Hebrew Israelites. You know who the Black Hebrew Israelites are?
Yeah, I know who they are. Yeah, they're kind of nuts. Yeah.
So some of them are nuts, but some of them are also just like they believe that they're just Jewish straight up. And actually, she has a cousin whose name, and I'm not kidding, you can look this up at home, Capers C. Fournier Jr. He's the second guy to have that name. First name Capers. Not a big fan of capers, by the way, personally, just the food.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of capers.
Yeah, they're a little bit too sour, a little bit too bitter, but nothing against him, actually. He's leading a big kind of conservative Judaism-affiliated Black Hebrew Israelite temple in Chicago. Very eccentric guy. This is the side of Michelle Obama I want more people to know about,
Yeah.
You ever see that there was like a video at the beginning of this whole thing in Gaza where there are these Black Hebrew Israelites getting into a fight with pro-Hamas protesters in Chicago?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That was awesome. That was great.
That was cool. Yeah, they should do that more often.
You see, and I don't promote violence. I'm a peaceful sleepover American. Okay? I believe in sleeping bags and watching Ninja Turtles at night. I don't promote violence, okay? And I also don't promote math. I'm a sleepover American, okay? But I will say that was pretty cool. And I think we might need to wrap up relatively soon.
I do want to say one thing, Ian, because I'm basically I've been pulled into the political world the last couple of years. I've not been a political guy. I've been conservative my whole life, but I've been in the music business for many years. So, what kind of music do you listen to, and why is it dead mouth?
Why is it dead?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. What kind of music? What kind of music do you listen
to? Like retrowave. I don't know. It's not a super popular thing, but it's you ever watched the movie? Was it Drive with Ryan Gosling?
Oh,
where
yeah.
It's got all this 1980s synth music.
Oh, wow.
I think Kavinsky, right? Like Kavinsky's like this French electropop, whatever, synthwave band, and it's for a while, like a lot of video games started using that kind of music, right? And they still are to an extent. I like that kind of music. I like the Midnight. I think they're a band based out of Los Angeles. Yeah, they're really good. I don't know what their politics are here. It's kind of communist, but I couldn't care less. Honestly, it's like I can separate the art from the artist. So if they ever listen to it, listen to me. I'm sure they hate me, but I don't care. I love their music. Keep making amazing music, right? A lot of these guys, like Telephone Tel Aviv is like another band that I forget where they're based, maybe Chicago or something. They don't like me. They're like sort of ranting about me on X one day. And I'm like, I love your guys' music though. What the fuck?
Well, good music's good music. It doesn't matter what they think or what kind of amp they use. For me, it's like great music that touches you is that's so personal. But anyway, I out of all this political stuff, that's kind of the stuff that I love to hear. So,
do you have like a top three? Let's say 3 songs you're listening to now that you'd recommend to our audience. What would that be?
I would listen to. I would say The Midnight's like its latest album. Listen to that one. I think they have like a little single from a video game called Road 96. I'd listen to that one. That's a really good one. I'd also listen to the soundtrack for that Cyberpunk 2077 anime on Netflix. There's a song there called I forget the name of it, but it's like the song that plays throughout the whole series, and it's really sad. Like it's really electro stuff, right? It's like
I
want to be home with you or something like that. Yeah, it's like. But if you watch that show and you listen to the song, you start feeling things. You feel emotions because it's like goddamn, like you remember the scenes and it makes you so sad. And I love music that touches me. I remember songs like that more than anything else. It's like it just. It touches a part of my memory, right? And for the third song, I would, and this is my go-to song whenever I'm like trying out new headphones or new speakers, because I'm kind of a bit of an audiophile, right? Mm-hmm. It's BFG Division from the Doom soundtrack in 2016. That's by Mick Gordon. That song is amazing. You listen to that and you can instantly tell, is this like a really good pair of headphones, or like are they trash?
Right.
Do I spend $5,000 on these speakers, or do I just get something else? That's my go-to song. Yeah.
I love that you said that. I love that because that's kind of my motto, just music that moves you. I think we've gotten away from that because a lot of times music is as a producer and a songwriter, your job is to make someone feel something they weren't expecting to feel before they heard your song. And I think that's becoming a lost art because it's becoming background music now, where I think, and not everybody today is like that, but I think a lot of times now, I would love to bring that back. And we're trying to do that at Baste Records, by the way. Just a little, you guys go to Baste Records, BASTE records.com. Last year we had the only, we had a bunch of stuff. One of the things, one of our artists, Rachel Holt, we had the only pro-life song to ever hit top 10 Billboard digital in the history of music. So we're all about making people think and making people feel things through music in a professional way. So go check us out.
And by the way, Ian, thank you for the support you've given to Baste Records. You've been sharing a lot of our stuff, and what do you think about the mission? I don't know, like conservative culture. People are saying we're the.
I think it's important. You hear a lot about from like Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. What they're doing there, I really support it because, and not just because I like these guys personally, but I think it's important. And I think Andrew Breitbart, like in 2012, one of his famous sayings is that all
politics is downstream from culture, right? And the
Right.
big problem with a conservative culture is that we just don't have it. There's no conservative culture because we've ceded it to the left, right? We ceded it to all the progressives. It's like we need this, right? We need culture. We need to be cool. I mean, we right now we've got the momentum going, right?
Right.
Look at Elon. He's cool as fuck. Everybody loves him, right? But where is our culture? Where is our art? Well, we need to produce it. And unfortunately, with Baste Records, with Angel Studios, with the Daily Wire, what they produce, I think we have a chance here. We've got a fighting chance. And with what Trump is doing by allowing, not allowing, but appointing Mel Gibson and Sylvester
great.
Stallone, right, to and John Voight to become like
Ambassadors, yeah.
ambassadors, right,
Yeah.
for Hollywood. I think that's a big thing. That's a huge thing for conservatives.
Absolutely.
Like I miss the movies of the 1980s and the 1990s. Movies like RoboCop, they're all like essentially conservative anyway, right? Like Predator, Rambo. I mean, where's Rambo today? You don't have it. Doesn't exist.
Absolutely. And God willing, what you say is going to come to pass, Ian, and we are going to take this culture back, and we're going to keep it this time.
Absolutely.
Because honestly, we're behind. I truly believe that we're behind in culture because through the years, through music, especially in my opinion, just because that's where I'm coming from, liberals have been whispering in our children's ear for decades their ideologies through music, and music is so powerful, and of course so is movies as well, and film. But I think we're just now getting to where we're kind of seeing that, and we're going to pull ahead. I truly believe that.
Yeah, God willing.
Ian, thank you so much for coming and joining and speaking to us. And please come back anytime. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely love to be on. Yeah. Sorry, today was a bit hectic, a delivery guy coming over and all that. Yeah. So
no problem. No problem at all, man. You've been a champ, and just thank you so much for taking the time. Everybody follow. I'm sure you're already following him on X. He's Ian Miles Cheong after all. But listen, give Ian a follow. Nevertheless, he's a wonderful guy. I love him personally. I've known him for years. Ian, thanks so much.
Thanks, Ian.
Absolutely happy to be on.
Yes, sir.
Man. Sleepover Americans signing off.